has a much larger radius than you would think, so roll more than you have to, just to be sure. Immediately after this, he will do his lightning attack. You will charge his sword, raise it into the air, and the screen will flash. Roll just after you see the flash, not before, or you'll most likely die.
Anytime you see him pause light sword there, you can get at least 2 attacks in. Right there, right when you see sword go down, move to the left and get 3 more attacks in the spot.
From this point on, it's just more of the same with these 2 new attacks mixed in, usually following one another just like that. He does have a point-blank lightning AoE as well that he will do when you are up close, so look for that. It's easy to dodge, and you can get in a couple of attacks afterward.
Man, this guy looks like a piece of cake, bruh. For the goals, we're gonna make it better.
Knock, knock. Is this happening to you? First of all, we'll take my button. Made his armor set on a HP from that of these in it to another horizontal and then light them. If you do find yourself rolling into, always follow that up. Attack. With this one, you'll be able to see the bird pull its head back really far. Almost kind of looks like it's got sudden neck pain, which it actually might do as it's got a lot of fire inside of its neck. So when you see its head pull back really far, and it will also be towards the right of your screen if you're looking towards the bird, he's about to shoot loads of fire from his mouth. So ideally, you want to run towards the side of its head, and you can actually get safely. King of the Storm is weak to lightning. You'll have to use this exact set. Place yourself just a little bit in front of the lightning, so apply your lightning resin. First of all, we'll just establish the safe zone, which is just a little bit in front of the bird's beak. I'd also recommend not using lock-on for this section of the fight. So if you place yourself just a little bit in front of the beak, you'll be able to place your camera so you can see the bird and the Nameless King on the screen at the same time. This way, you'll be able to see what attacks are coming your way, because some of the attacks come from the bird itself, and some of the attacks come from the Nameless King. So you can keep an eye on both of them. With the King of the Storm, you'll want to focus on attacking the bird's head or neck. This is where you'll do the most damage. If you can do, try to make your attacks land on its head as opposed to its neck, because if you keep attacking the head, it'll eventually build up stagger damage and then stagger the bird. And ideally, you want to be aiming for a stagger if possible. Let's take a look at the Nameless King's horizontal attacks. With his horizontal attacks, you'll see him hold his weapon up towards the sky a little bit, and then he'll swing it horizontally. Just roll through the swing to avoid it. He then might do another horizontal swing in the opposite direction, so keep an eye out for that. And after the second one, he can sometimes do an overhead slam. He can choose to do any combination of these horizontal attacks and overhead slams, so sometimes overhead slam into horizontal strikes, and sometimes horizontal strikes into overhead slams, so just be on your guard and keep your eyes peeled. With the overhead slam attack, you can roll forward through it, and at the end of the roll, try and place yourself towards the bird's head, and after you've got up from your roll, you can deliver 1 or 2 attacks safely. He can also do a variant of this overhead slam where he charges his weapon with lightning. This lightning charged variant will take a little bit longer for the slam to come down. If you're quite close, you'll want to roll forward in towards the head whilst avoiding the weapon slam and lightning on the floor. Or if you find yourself a little bit further away, you'll want to roll away in the opposite direction whilst also avoiding the slam and the lightning. If you do find yourself rolling forward towards the head, you can also get yourself in some extra attacks after you finish your roll, so make sure to get these in if you can do. Next, we'll take a look at the fly up in the air, throw down lightning, and then swoop attack. So with this attack, it's usually a good idea to try and lock on to the Nameless King. He'll fly around you for a few seconds and then throw down lightning. Just roll through the lightning to avoid it, and then as you see the bird get ready to swoop down, prepare yourself and then roll forward through the attack. There's a few seconds between dodging through the lightning and then dodging through the swoop attack, so you could use those few seconds in between those attacks to perhaps heal yourself up or use an item if you need to. After he's done the swoop attack, he'll then do kind of like a 180 spin and land on the floor. You can actually use this opportunity to attack if you want to make it easier. Lock onto the bird's head as he's doing that 180 spin towards the back of you, and then you can sprint up towards his head and deliver an attack or 2. You can also do the 180 attack whilst he's on the ground, so he'll kind of flip himself from in front of your character to behind your character. And once he's done this 180 whilst he's on the ground, he'll always follow that up with some kind of attack. A lot of the times this will be a horizontal attack with his weapon, but sometimes it can be other attacks as well. You'll be able to see when he's about to do the 180 because the bird will kind of pull its head back a little bit and look like it's about to jump forward. If you're quick when you see this animation, you can run up to the bird's head and get in 1 extra attack. Next, we'll take a look at the standing fire breath attack. With this one, you'll be able to see the bird pull its head back really far, almost kind of looks like it's got sudden neck pain, which it actually might do as it's got a lot of fire inside of its neck. So when you see its head pull back really far, and it will also be towards the right of your screen if you're looking towards the bird, he's about to shoot loads of fire from his mouth. So ideally, you want to run towards the side of its head, and you can actually get in loads of attacks whilst you're here. It's usually about 4 attacks that you can get in, sometimes 5 if you're lucky. And because you can get in quite a lot of damage here, it's quite common that you might get a stagger as well. Once again, just make sure that your attacks are directed towards the named weapon. The one is the bird will fly up into the sky and kind of push a gust of wind towards you. You'll see the bird kind of flap his wings. That one you just want to run you see it in time and underneath the bird. A couple of extra things to look out for, 5 if you're lucky. And because you can get in quite a lot of damage here, it's quite common that you might get a stagger as well. Once again, just make sure that your attacks are directed at the head if you can do, as opposed to the neck. A couple of extra things to look out for here. If you get a bit too close to the bird, which is kind of past his head towards the Nameless King, there's a few different attacks that you can do. And these attacks will try to push you out from underneath the bird. There's one where the Nameless King will do a very quick thrust with his weapon. This is insanely hard to dodge as it's almost instant. You can dodge roll through this if you do see it in time and manage to roll. To dodge that one, you'll have to have very quick reaction speeds. Another one is the bird will fly high up into the sky and breathe fire down towards the ground. With that one, you just want to run away and you'll avoid the fire. And the third one is quite similar, where the bird will fly up into the sky and kind of push a gust of wind towards you. You'll see the bird kind of flap his wings a few times and then the gust will come towards you. If you time your roll correctly, you'll be able to roll forward and through it. If you want to avoid all 3 of those attacks completely, then just don't get too close to the bird's feet or don't go too far past the bird's head. So if you keep yourself around the front of the beak,
At this point, I don't understand like why we're running so far away from this. Some bullshit, bro. Like, why am I running so far away? got half health on the first try. It's just that, yeah, that lightning attack that he does, like, you could dodge it the last second, I believe.
Raid Shadow Legends. I mean, wow. You pick your champions. They're glorious. And their shields, oh, they glisten like wet otters. But the bad guys, they're Lovecraftian, they're spooky, they're big. And then you go to battle. And it's like,
Very, very different type of lightning storm. Mostly when you push like sleep. You can like get over platform. I have a lot of stamina. I might go to Rosario to get stamina. That's true. The fog is annoying. Yeah, I'm just gonna get 1 or 2 hits on him and then leave. What's the best way? think when he does his spirit attack, I'm just gonna freaking roll at him. Two unders. Where's that ring? Where did it go, bro? Am I too close to it? No, it's kind of not open to do this. No, this ring is not worth it, dude. You just do too much damage with this ring. We're starting that the tears are rolling. suck at rolling. Like, I'm rolling through and I can't roll. It's weird. I think you can parry him, can't you? I can't. Aren't I?
Just in front of them. Delay your left or to the right to avoid the vertical, and then he's most likely to follow attack, thrust attack 1. He also has another forward wave attack. Your roll at main opportunity, fire and dart. Attack button to deliver a critical strike and some good damage. Once you've taken care of the King of the Storm, we move on to the main act, the Nameless King. The Nameless King is weak to fire and dark, so apply fire or dark to your weapon at the start of this phase. A lot of the time with the Nameless King, we're going to focus on dodging his attacks and looking out for two main opportunities for us to get in our attacks, which I'll point out in just a second. For the vast majority of the Nameless King's attacks, you'll need to teach yourself to delay your roll ever so slightly in order to make sure that you dodge the attack, as most, but not all of his attacks are quite slow and delayed. The Nameless King will usually start off with his shockwave attacks. This is where he blasts a gust of wind towards you. He usually does a horizontal attack and then a vertical attack, so just roll forward through the horizontal and roll to your left or to the right to avoid the vertical. And then he's most likely to follow that up with a forward thrust towards you. With this thrust, he has his weapon towards his side. As you see him readying up this attack, count to 2 and then roll on the 2 to avoid the attack. We'll call this thrust attack 1. He also has another forward thrust that is very similar to this, but it's slightly different. With this different thrust, you'll see that his weapon is raised higher than it is with the previous thrust. With this one, you'll want to roll slightly later than the previous thrust. This thrust variant we'll call thrust 2, and with thrust 2, you'll want to roll around about 2.5 seconds to avoid the attack. So thrust 1 is roll on 2 seconds, thrust 2 is roll on 2.5 seconds. The attack that you'll see the most often with the Nameless King is his horizontal slashes. With these standard horizontal attacks, they're quite slow and delayed, so you'll need to train yourself to slightly delay your roll when you see these coming. The delay is round about half a second. So as you see the animation coming in for these horizontal attacks, try to force yourself to delay your roll just slightly, and this way you should avoid the attacks. Usually I try to lock onto the Nameless King and be quite close to him whilst moving towards our right hand side, which is the Nameless King's left hand side, so kind of travelling in an anti-clockwise direction whilst we're locked on. By being a little bit closer to him, it usually stops him from doing those thrust attacks that we mentioned earlier, thrust attack 1 and thrust attack 2, so it takes those attacks out of the equation. However, keep keep in mind that he can also do a standing thrust attack, which he usually does after 2 horizontal swipes, and his standing thrust attack we'll call thrust attack 3. And after he does the standing thrust attack, this is the perfect time for us to get in our damage. So if you're looking for the best and the safest way to put in your attack, after this standing thrust attack is your time to do it. You'll notice that after he does this standing thrust attack, it kind of takes a second or two to bring his weapon back in again, so this is our perfect prime time to attack. You can also use this time to heal up if you are low on health, or apply another fire resin or dark resin after this thrust 3. Just be aware on this standing thrust attack that he can sometimes do this thrust attack multiple times in a row before he finishes up. So a lot of the time he would just do this thrust attack one time, but just keep your eyes open because he can just keep going with it. You'll know when he finishes up because he keeps his weapon extended out in front of him for a bit longer, and once again it'll take about 1 or 2 seconds to pull his weapon back in again. And like I mentioned before, this is your prime time and safest time to attack, so make sure to attack 1 or 2 times here. You can also do a jumping forward horizontal slash, and with this one once again just roll forward to dodge the attack. If he does this particular jumping forward variant of this slash after you've rolled to dodge the attack, as long as you're walking backwards away from the Nameless King, it should give you enough time to heal up or use a fire or dark resin. Another attack that you can do is a standing overhead slam attack. He usually does this whilst you're close to him. This is another attack that will allow us to get in our attack and punish him. His standing overhead slam attack is quite fast. I would still delay your roll ever so slightly when you see the animation. Once again, for most of the Nameless King attacks, you want to delay your roll slightly. After he's done this overhead slam attack, this is another safe time to get in our attacks. Usually you'll have time to get in 1 or 2 attacks here. You'll also want to watch out for the wind that comes from his weapons after his attacks, so just be aware of this, as sometimes it can knock you over. You can also do a standing overhead slam where his weapon is charged with lightning. This one you want to dodge out of the way of the weapon slam just before the weapon is slamming into the ground. About a second after this weapon has slammed into the floor, there'll be bolts of lightning that shoot out in multiple directions that start from where the weapon slammed into the floor. Depending on your positioning, you'll want to do slightly different things, so if you're a bit further away from the Nameless King when he's doing this attack, you'll want to be dodge rolling through the slam in a backwards diagonal left or a backwards diagonal right direction, and then just keep moving a little bit to your character's left or to your character's right to make sure that you avoid the bolts of lightning that shoot out afterwards. Or if you're closer to the Nameless King when he does this attack, you'll want to roll diagonally forwards and right, keeping once again in that anti-clockwise motion around the Nameless King. By pulling yourself towards the diagonal right a little bit, you'll also avoid that lightning bolt that shoots from the floor as well. With the lightning bolts that shoot from the floor, one of those bolts will usually shoot directly towards the Nameless King, and there'll be one that's traveling in the opposite direction away from the Nameless King as well. So just try to keep the directions of the bolts in mind after the slam. Next we'll cover the aerial plunge attack. This one I call the 3-second aerial plunge. You'll usually do this attack if there's some distance between you and the Nameless King. He'll jump up into the air, ready his weapon, and then plunge that down towards you. With this one, you want to be counting to 3 as soon as you see the animation, and then roll on the 3 to avoid the attack. Sometimes after he's done this aerial plunge, he'll then go into the standing thrust attacks.
1,
Once again, he
2,
can sometimes do
3.
multiple standing thrust attacks, so just keep that in mind. And then he's also got a variation of this aerial plunge, and this one is a lot faster. With this variation, he'll kind of go up towards the top left-hand corner of the screen, and then do the aerial plunge towards you from up there. With this one, I keep my eye on him as he goes up into the sky, and then when I see him stop at the top, I usually roll straight away, as he does the plunge attack pretty much instantly as soon as he gets to the top. So rolling when he gets to the top of his climb up is usually a good time to roll. You can also do a lightning foot stomp. With this one, just try to time your roll exactly at the time that his foot stomps on the floor, and you should roll through it nice and safely. You can also cast one from his hand. Once again, just try and time your roll precisely as the bolt hits the floor, and you should roll safely through it. He's also got an attack where he'll stand still. He'll charge his weapon with lightning, and then point his weapon to the sky, which will then summon a lightning bolt down on you. Whilst he's charging his weapon with the lightning, it's usually quite safe to get in 1 or 2 attacks. And then to avoid the lightning bolt that's going to be heading down towards you, you've got 2 main options. You can either try to time your roll and avoid the lightning bolt, which is usually about 1 second after he points his weapon up towards the sky, or for some reason the game has got some weird glitch here where you can just turn your camera away from the Nameless King as he points his weapon up towards the sky, and then the lightning has no way to track your character, and the lightning will just completely miss every single time. I've got absolutely no idea why this works, it just works. You can also try and be really cheeky here by getting in 1 or 2 attacks whilst he's charging his weapon with the lightning, and then quickly turning your camera away before he points his weapon up to the sky. And if you're fast enough, you'll actually avoid the lightning as well as getting in your attacks. Also, just a quick tip here, if you find yourself in a bit of a pickle, you can actually just run far away from the Nameless King, get some distance between you and him, and it should allow you enough time to pop an Estus flask. Just in case anyone wasn't aware of this, if you hold down the down button on your D-pad, it will go to the first item that's on your quick items menu, which for most people is usually the Estus flask. So instead of panicking and trying to flick through all your items and get to the Estus flask, Dagon, use a fire.
Can't you?
King of the Storm, the safest.
Can't you just parry? Can you parry him? Lothar can be parried between people as if he smashed him in the face enough. Some of them accept no parry. No parry, I guess you can. So yeah, it's yeah, man, my dodging sucks, bro. Sekiro is much easier than Dark Souls, man. Like, I love bosses that you don't, like, there's no face. Like, Sekiro, I don't mind. Sekiro, you can dodge, you're not fighting with the camera in Sekiro. I'm playing you. Damn, man. I chased the roll. I think I should just keep circling around him as he's doing those rolls. Die! Yes! Yes! Piece of shit. Ah! Yes! Let's go, boys. Let's go! Unlimited heals. Oh man, it feels good. Let's go. Oh, the doors to the mighty cathedral are open now. $80,000 souls. Worth it.